Nana,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Here. Next,
Thank
we
you
have
so much.
Engineer Teddy Curran, who resides in the United Kingdom. Engineer Teddy is the head of the Human Rights Division of Aido Network International, which is a global network of kings and queens promoting culture and social inclusion. Welcome to the discussion, Engineer Teddy.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Next
Thank you.
up, we have Sheena Pearson, who is the founder and CEO of Amend, Restart, Reentry, which is based out of Tennessee. Their mission is to create tailored plans for inmates before they are released, as well as care for families and communities affected by incarceration. Welcome, Sheena, to the discussion.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
And last but certainly not least, we have Princess Precious Lindiwe, a certified self discovery and development coach and NLP practitioner. Her purpose is to help ambitious, soul driven women discover their purpose, reconnect to their highest self, and finally step into their dream job with confidence and ease. Welcome, Princess, to the discussion.
Thank you, ladies.
The flow of today's
Thank
discussion will be as follows. Each panelist will have 15 minutes to discuss their topic. At the 14-minute mark, a bell will ring, signifying that there's 1 minute left to wrap up the talk. After all the panelists have spoken, we'll take any questions from the audience and then close out with a quick round table where each panelist will give their contact information so the audience can follow up and connect with them directly after the event. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Our first speaker today is going to be Nana Asamoah Sakyi the first, who will speak on challenges women and girls face with regards to menstrual hygiene.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And today being the World Menstrual Day, I think it's important and prudent that we would have this forum and to educate, campaign, inform, promote, and sensitize society about the importance of personal hygiene by embracing the use of menstrual cup, especially against women and girls. It is important to ensure that women and girls live in an environment where there's values and support their ability to maintain their menstruation with dignity and also respect. Yes, somebody may ask, what is menstrual cup? It is a menstrual hygiene device which is inserted in the vagina during menstruation. Its, its purpose is to collect menstrual fluid, that is blood, from the urinary lining. Menstrual cup typically don't leak if it is used properly. Though incorrect placement or inadequate cup size can cause some women and girls to experience leakage. Menstrual cups are a safe alternative to other menstrual devices compared to others. Menstrual cup, though it is good and important for women and girls to use, but there are still challenges. There are challenges that prevent women and girls to be confident enough to use it. Some of the challenges that they face are the lack of basic supplies and infrastructure. While menstruation is a normal and healthy part of life for most women and girls, in many societies, the experience of menstruators continues to be a constraint by cultural taboos, discriminatory social norms. The resulting lack of information about menstruation leads to unhygienic and unhealthy menstrual practices, and it creates misconceptions and negative attitudes, which motivate, among others, shaming, bullying, and even gender-based violence. For generations of girls and women, I must say that poor menstruation health and hygiene worsens social and economic inequalities, negatively impacting their education, their health, their safety, and human development. In addition to the challenges, some are period poverty, is in the part of challenges that women and girls face as far as menstrual hygiene is concerned. Also, period poverty causes physical, mental, emotional, and psychological feelings for women and girls. It makes them feel ashamed for menstruating because the stigma surrounding periods affect women and girls negatively. And the lack of money to buy menstrual cups during menstruation is a big, big, big challenge, especially at the rural areas in Africa, and which Ghana is part. It creates a high rate of absenteeism for teenage girls. Teenage poverty push women and girls to sort to all kinds of sanitary materials to use during menstruation, which is very dangerous to their health. In normal or non-crisis times, poverty, unjust social norms, gender inequality, cultural taboos, and lack of access to basic services cause menstrual hygiene, which needs to go unmet. Menstrual supply scarcity. The scarcity forces many girls in underserved communities to use unsanitary self-fashioned materials such like dirty rags, ashes, bed linings that are less than effective and can cause infection. Continuing the challenges, some are it affects the school attendance. I must say that research shows that about 10 to 20% of girls miss school days per year due to lack of menstrual supplies, inadequate sanitation like toilets, period pain, or social stigma. Some ladies or girls go through menstrual pain, and there are reports that male teachers and male peers will often bully young women and girls who are on their period, not allowing them to use the washrooms or the restroom, with a profound effect on girls, the girls' self-esteem, and on school attendance. They also lack pain relievers, as I said earlier. Some girls, women go through menstrual pain. And if this happens and it is a school period time, they would have to skip school because of the pain. And they can't afford to buy painkillers. It is a big challenge. They also find the pain unbearable while trying to study. They can lose concentration when this happens. And this girls miss many school days because of their period. And if it fall behind academically, the girls fall behind academically, or even drop out of school. As a result of this, I would say that there is a massive loss of human potential because academically they are not good. They are always seen as being left behind when they are supposed to be in the classroom and learn. And I also realized that there's lack of information. There's lack of information during adolescent girls. What they don't know, or they are not informed properly about what is menstruation. I feel that they have to go through maybe from school, their teachers, or even their parents. It should start from home. They have to discuss about what menstruation is, so they know about menstruation before even they start their first period. Then they will not be new to menstruation. They will get the right information from the right place and at the right time. Young people do not have access to reliable and correct information about their reproductive health and their rights. The stigma around menstruation leads to teachers and other community stakeholders being reluctant to talk about periods. An overall lack of scientific knowledge about menstruation also gives way to myths and misconceptions. Um, I think that many girls believe that they may even die or get ill at the first time of menstruation when they don't get the information, or they don't know, they are not aware about menstruation. They have to know that every girl or women, young women at a stage in their life, they would have to go through menstruation. So when um, menstruation naturally would have to go out of their system when they are old. And many girls believe that um, their parents or those around them, the society, should accept them, understand them when they go through menstruation. Due to societal norms around gender and menstruation taboos, girls feel ashamed in impurity among their menstrual cycle, and this is common amongst girls. Another school of thought shows that in situations where male teachers teach menstruation topic, you realize that both the teacher, the male teacher, and the school girl are also very uncomfortable. They are not, the teacher who is teaching is not comfortable to talk about menstruation, and the student, the girl child or the woman also feels awkward to talk about menstruation whilst the teacher is teaching, just because of the gender. They feel shy to talk about menstruation when it is a male teacher. So I feel that it is good for women, especially our mothers, or a female teacher, to take the girls through menstruation, including the boys. They also have to know about it so that they will not see menstruation as something unacceptable. They shouldn't use it against the school girls or young women. Otherwise, they fear that the males in the class will use menstruation to tease them. Yeah. And another challenge is lack of enabling environment in the rural communities. Even today, girls and women are socially considered impure and are not allowed to enter places like the religious centers, the kitchen, being in the midst of a group of people. And it is a big challenge. The unaccommodating social surroundings put them in a situation of discomfort. I mean, the women and the girls. And this is a great distress for them. It is found out that women and girls in developed areas lack clean toilets with proper running water and even disposable bins where it will help them to dispose of the menstrual materials that they use if they are supposed to dispose, even if it is the cup that the girls or women are using. So, in a nutshell, I will say that we should all encourage the use of menstrual cup and also be able to allow women and the young girls go through menstruation properly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nana, for that most insightful description on the challenges that our women and girls face out in the community. Next up, we have Engineer Teddy Curran, who will speak on the human rights aspect of menstrual hygiene. Welcome, Teddy.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, as you've already mentioned, my name is Engineer Teddy Curran, the head of Ubuntu Aido Network International. Just briefly about Aido Network and also Ubuntu. Ubuntu, it just means I am because you are, or humanity to others. I am what I am because who we are. So just briefly about Aido. Aido Network International brings together different stakeholders within cultural kings and queens, community, educational, faith, sporting sectors to challenge human rights abuses, and they use culture, they use the kings, queens, princesses, prince to promote unity, development, and change. So what's human rights? Human rights is the basic rights that are for everyone, every person in the world from birth till death and even after death. It applies to us regardless of where you are, where you're from, what your beliefs are, your choices in life. But why are we here today? Today is Menstrual Hygiene Day. And Menstrual Hygiene Day was created to, to bring awareness of menstrual period care, safe hygiene practice provided to girls and women around the world to stop the stigma, the taboo around menstruation, as you've already heard from my colleague. There's a lot of taboo, there's a lot of knowledge out there, but it's not reached out to everyone. Our girls in the rural area, even in the urban, even in UK, we've had issues that we need to be educated about the cups, about the importance, about the different types and the hygiene around the menstrual. So, menstrual hygiene rights are actually our human rights, and that's why I come in today. So, the rights are there to empower the women and the girls to manage their periods with dignity, and so that it's not an issue that the women and the girls should be left alone to deal with this on their own, rather than the whole community. The policies are made, the NGOs are around to help, and all the organizations that have really come together, for example, the Diaspora African has come together to put us together to share the knowledge that we have. So period poverty affects women and girls everywhere, whoever menstruates around the world. Access to the products, safe hygiene, spaces in which they can use these rights to manage the menstrual without shame, taboo, stigma is essential to all our girls and women, as we already mentioned by my colleague before. So what are the human rights education on menstrual hygiene? So Aido has placed itself in the forefront to empower the people around human rights education and appropriate effective campaigns in order to bring about positive change around the conditions. So the menstrual hygiene rights of you are actually human rights. These menstrual hygiene rights are human rights that were actually declared in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. That states that in its preamble that all human beings should be recognized in their inherent dignity without good menstrual hygiene management practice. This is impossible for the girls and the women to manage it. We have 30 human rights, and my colleague will show the video at the end of my presentation. It's only 2 minutes. Human rights that affect, say, menstrual hygiene are the rights to non-discrimination, the rights to health, the right to education, the right to work. So briefly, the right to non-discrimination. I could briefly explain what that means in relation to the menstrual. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedom without discrimination of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political, or any other opinion around discrimination. And discrimination means we should treat people with dignity. We should respect each other, and shouldn't we shouldn't differ people from or treat people differently, especially if you're in your menstrual period and it's a mixed school, for example. The boys will make you feel really uncomfortable. They'll this kind of discriminate you. So we're here to educate you in not to discriminate, to make sure that the menstrual hygiene, the menstruation is actually a norm. So that's why this day was actually put out to celebrate and to empower the women and the girls around the world.
Thank you, Teddy, for breaking down our human rights to us. Many people don't know that those are ours from birth. So thank you so much for going through and explaining exactly what human rights are so that our listening community would know. Thank you. Next up, we have Sheena Pearson, who will share her personal testimony with regards to menstrual hygiene. Welcome, Sheena.
Hello. So I would like to share my personal testimony with you all about what I went through as a woman who was incarcerated. Back in 2015 to 2018, I was incarcerated. During that time of incarceration, I witnessed many things. One thing I will tell you that I had to go through that was very hard for me and the other women was our monthly cycle. Um, that's something that a lot of people don't think about when a woman is incarcerated. That yes, we still have our monthly cycle, but what happens to us when we are incarcerated and we don't have access to those things? So I wanted to share that with you if I could. So a couple things that I wanted to touch on. Number one, it was a very hard thing every month going through my menstrual cycle. For one, it is the rules in every jail that you have a limited supply of how many sanitary napkins you're allowed to have in your cell. So therefore, if you're a person like myself who had female issues, I was a very heavy bleeder. I had very long menstrual cycles, but they didn't care because they had to follow city, county, and state regulations. So I was only allowed to have one, and maybe if the officer was nice, they would give me another half of a pack. So that would make maybe 12 to 15 small size pads. Um, with one, not to gross anyone out, but this is something that needs to be talked about. And so I'm just sharing my story because I have to be transparent with you all. This is something that's real. Um, every single time I had my cycle, those little pads that came in commissary, they were so small I had to wear at least 7 at one time. So if I'm only getting a pack of 14 pads, you can only imagine that they would go pretty quickly. So not only that, I had to weigh sometimes whether it was more important for me to buy food on commissary, or as a woman knowing that I would bleed every month, would it be more important for me to buy sanitary napkins? On top of that, I was also a woman who had gone through a lot of physical changes being incarcerated. I had a lot of breakouts. We had a lot of us went through a lot of allergic reactions. So I went through all the pain and the infections that came along with those sanitary napkins. At home, I knew that I had specific sanitary napkins that I would have to get. I would have to buy foam sanitary napkins. They do not provide those foam sanitary napkins in jail. I couldn't wear the sanitary napkins that, they would give us in jail, because I would have infections. Those infections led to fevers, blisters. It was hard to walk during the time of my menstrual cycle, to sometimes months after my cycle was over. So that led me to learn how to practice unsafe things while I was incarcerated those 2 years. I had no choice. I had to learn how to make homemade tampons. I wasn't the only one. Everyone got together. We would order what we could on our commissary, and we would scrape out the inside of those pads, roll those pads up, and create different size sanitary napkins. I know you're thinking that is disgusting, but we had to do what we had to do. Why? Because those skinny sanitary napkins that they issued us leaked. And if they leaked on one of your uniforms, you were only issued 2. So I knew I only had 2 uniforms I had to hand wash myself for 2 years. I had to make those uniforms last. And no one wants to walk around with blood stains. No one wants to do that. It's embarrassing. It does something to you, not just physically, but mentally. I was in a very dark, depressing space every month that my cycle came on, because I didn't know if I was going to bleed through my clothes that day. So I had to learn how to make provision with what I had. So I learned how to make these tampons. I witnessed people going through toxic shock doing these things. So on top of that, I will also tell you that purchasing, sometimes this was not something that I could do. And purchasing pads was something that a lot of women could not do. It is very expensive to purchase pads on commissary when you're incarcerated. I know you're probably thinking, and if you're one of these people that are thinking, well, you know what, you shouldn't go to jail. At one time, I was one of those people. I was one of those people because before I was incarcerated, I was a correctional officer working for a state prison. I was one of those people that would hear someone like me saying now that there's different laws that should be put in place that gave women a choice on what they could put on and in their bodies. I was one of those people too. But I'm here before you today, and I just want to plead with you just to listen to what the panel is saying today. Because while we're all running around saying my body, my choice, we need to be very careful, because there are many women who are in a woman's body who don't have a choice when it comes to their time of the month, who don't have a choice. And if you are a human being, and if you are alive and breathing right now, listening to us today, it's time for us to get together and advocate for one another. There are mothers incarcerated, sisters incarcerated, daughters incarcerated, justly incarcerated as well as unjustly incarcerated. whatever the case might be, it doesn't give us the okay to tell them that they should have a limited supply of sanitary napkins. That is not a good form of punishment for them. It is unsanitary, not just for themselves, but for the staff of the prison system. And it is unsanitary for the other people who are incarcerated with them. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheena.
Thank
Next,
you.
we have Princess Lindiwe, who will speak on the importance of global education with regards to menstrual hygiene. Welcome, Princess.
Thank you, my queen. And thank you, ladies, for sharing your experiences, your thoughts, your knowledge. It's highly appreciated. From South Africa, good evening to everybody. Good morning to those of you where it's morning, and good afternoon or good day, depending on where you are. Now, I'm saying this because we live in a global world. We are connected wherever we are. So that is what I'll be talking about on a global scale. Knowledge is power, right? And in order for you to get knowledge, you need to be educated, whether it's from your home, whether it's from a religious point of view, whether it's from a schooling, but knowledge is power. And when we on a global scale educate not only our girls, but our boys as well on menstrual hygiene, we ensure that we level the playing field because we are one globally. What happens where I am ultimately trickles up or trickles down and affects you wherever you are. So it means when we educate on a global scale with menstrual hygiene, where menstrual hygiene is concerned, we ensure that we level the playing field. We ensure that we move a step further to equality. We ensure that we move a step further to our girls finding their voice, to our women finding their voice on a global scale. Somebody might be educated in South Africa today, but end up working in America. That means that they would actually be impacting and affecting the economy of that particular country. So if a girl child is not educated on menstrual hygiene and they're unable to attend school because of menstrual hygiene issues, that girl child who will then move out of their country to work in another country would they not add as much value in the future as they would have had they actually been able to attend school as they should have? Now, there's a saying that says cleanliness is next to godliness. And when we talk about hygiene, a lot of the times we talk about washing your physical bodies and making sure that your physical body is clean, especially where menstruation is concerned. But we seldom talk about the energetic hygiene behind menstruation. A lot of women will know that when you're on your period, you are at your lowest energy. And we live in a world where it's a man's world. The way in which we function, the way in which we work, we don't align to our cycles as women. And that means we are not as empowered, we are not as productive as we should be as women because we actually work against our cycle from a menstrual energetic cleanliness point of view. You'll find that when you're on your periods, a lot of the times, you actually find that you don't want to be around a lot of people. But how is our working environment today? It requires that you are in the office 5 days a week. It requires that you work as you did yesterday, tomorrow, and the next day, regardless of whether you're on your periods or not. Now, where is the energetic menstrual hygiene element in that? When we educate both our men and women, male and female, equally, on such elements, that's where we start opening up doorways where you find that there's already countries that offer leave days for people who are on periods, which I commend because that is actually part of menstrual hygiene. Now, going back to Mother Nature, when we go back to menstrual hygiene, nature is such that it cleans itself. If you look at streams, they clean themselves. If you look at the environment, it recycles. If we go back to the basics of how the ecosystem works, it cleans itself. Now, the same thing goes for if we educate our girls and boys, and I'll keep saying our girls and boys, our men and women, because menstrual hygiene does not just impact our girls, but it impacts the boys as well. Because what happens to the left happens to the right. Without men, we would not have women. Without women, we would not have men. And in as much as men do not experience menstruation, it still impacts them, because it means when the woman in your life is affected mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically because of menstrual hygiene issues, that affects you as well. If you're a mother out there and you have children and you do not have sanitary wear when you're on your periods, you are at your lowest, your energy levels are down. What happens to your kids? Whether they are boys or girls, they get affected because mommy is not well. So when we ensure that we educate globally on menstrual hygiene, we ensure that we actually start going back to basics. We start going back to building families as we did before. We start balancing out life and going back to where it was. When we educate on menstrual hygiene, particularly with the kids are our roots. They are actually the the seeds, not even the roots, the seeds that will bear fruit to the next generations. That means we are actually then taking that seed and scattering out throughout the globe, having a positive change. Now, I'm a mother of a toddler. It's actually her birthday today. She's a girl, and I agreed to do this talk because one day I want her to know that my mommy was okay to speak publicly to other women and men about menstruation. She's turning 5 today, and she already knows about periods. She started knowing about periods before she could even pronounce the letter R. She'd see I would change my sanitary way in front of her, and she would ask, Mommy, what is happening to your vagina? At the time, she couldn't pronounce vagina. And she'd say, what is happening to your vagina? Why is it bleeding? Is it pain, which means, does it hurt? And I would tell her, no, mommy's on her period, you know? And I would actually change my sanitary way in front of her so that it looks normal to her, so that it's not a shameful act, so that when she gets to that stage, she understands that there's choices when it comes to menstruation. There's different types of sanitary way that you can use, that yes, you do bleed, and we as mothers, we are the best teachers of our kids. So on a global scale, I plead to all women who have kids to start at home. Charity begins at home. Start with the children at home. Start with your relatives' kids. Be open, because you find that in the previous generations, it may have been taboo to speak about periods. If we go back to basics, I'm an African, and in African culture, we would have certain schooling systems traditionally that would educate the girl child on menstrual hygiene, on how to conduct yourself when you're on your periods, and how to take care of yourself. And if we would have such information on a global scale, that would again level the playing field. It would bring a balancing effect to a very skewed up environment that we find ourselves in. If you compare developed countries and developing countries, you'll find that there's places that have little to no information where menstrual hygiene is concerned. There's places where you are still seen as evil if you're on your periods, and that is how the girls would be treated. So when we level the playing field and educate boys and girls, male and female, on menstrual hygiene, what is it? Why is it necessary? How can we ensure it? that means we start then influencing government as well. Because in as much as we like it, we are highly governed and influenced by our government. You know, a lot of the times we may actually be giving out sanitary ware without the education behind it. But if we know that menstrual hygiene comes hand in hand with education, and when we educate wherever you are actually educating in the globe. Because when you speak to somebody now, I mean, today we are live streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, um, Instagram, I'm not sure where else, but it's global, you know. On the panel, it's just five of us ladies, but there's a number of people who have joined us from all over the world. And that's what it means to be global, you know, to share the information on what do you know about menstrual hygiene and how can you influence the next person. Sometimes we think that influencing on a global scale means you need to influence billions of people all at once. No. Educating on menstrual hygiene on a global scale, I say start with what you have where you are. Do you have a girl child in your home? Do you have a girl child in your neighborhood? Do you have a girl child in your school? Start there because that is where the globe starts. You know, one bit at a time. If you look at a peck of rice, think of a globe as a peck of rice. If you look at a peck of rice, those tiny rice granules individually, yes, they feel very small and insignificant, but put together, you have a bowl of rice, you have a tub of rice, you have a lot of rice. I love food, so I usually make reference to food. So think of educating on a global scale, starting with you. So I want you to ask yourself today before I close off, what can I do what do I know, first of all, about menstrual hygiene? What is one thing? Don't think of a lot of things. What is one thing that I know currently about menstrual hygiene? And who do I have that I can pass that knowledge on to? Because that is how knowledge trickles up, trickles down globally. And then ask yourself, what more information can I get so that I can share? Because when you get information, you are getting it from somewhere. That means you are getting it globally. You could be getting that information from somebody who's in France, who's in America, who's in Jamaica, who's in South Africa, who's in Australia. You are getting it from somewhere. And share that information. You are then taking it to another place. That is sharing it globally. And with those questions, I'd love for you to ponder on them and say thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Princess. What a wonderful presentation. So we do have a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll be coming to a close. The first one is for Engineer Teddy. Engineer Teddy, could you please explain what can be done globally since girls have a right to education? What can be done to these schools to force them to provide napkins for the girls to attend school just like they provide lunch?
Yeah, thank you so very much. The right to education is the right to everyone to receive instruction from a school or a university. And the policies have been put in place that primary education should be free. So with educating more knowledge on menstrual period and the taboo and all the stigma around it being addressed, the government should actually ensure that instead of also providing food, they should also provide sanitary towels to schools so that there is no excuse that the kids. So it's really a policy that the government should put in place to all schools to have sanitary towels. In the UK, we have schools, the schools actually do provide, and I'm not sure about Africa, but in the UK, the schools do provide sanitary towels for the primary schools and the secondary schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is for Sheena. Sheena, could you explain what your company is doing to help with the problem that you discussed since you have a personal testimony? Is your company helping to provide any products to the prison system, or how does it work?
Well, we are actively working on that. There has to be, again, policies put in place. The first step is getting the prisons to listen. We're trying to get people to listen. We're trying to get lawmakers to listen. And if you're a lawmaker now and you're watching this, and you know I've tried to reach out to you in regards to this issue, this is a heartfelt plea. This needs to be really looked at, because, like I said, we can't just forcefully go inside the prison system. As much as I would love to do that and help our women, we can't do that. We have to follow the laws. So there has to begin to be put laws in place from the lawmakers first and foremost. Um, and just like was just spoken about with the school system, how there should be laws put in place, as you know, just like the children eat for free, and you know there should be sanitary napkins and things like that for free supplied. The same thing should apply with the prison system. Not everyone comes in there with money. Not everyone has people on the outside. And for me, you know, I had children at home. Yes, I have a husband, but you know he was taking care of our children, and I was 14 hours away. Um, it became very overbearing, and commissary is very expensive, to keep putting money on people's commissary for food and other things, you know, that are needed for upkeep, because you're not just paying for food. You know, when you put money on people's books, you're paying for phone calls, which are very expensive. You have to pay for mail, you have to pay for postage, you have to pay for all those kind of things. So when it comes to sanitary things in the prison system, the lawmakers need to look twice at that and realize that we are human beings, and this is a natural thing that women go through every month, and that it should be supplied for free. My team is ready, hands and feet, to go and hand these things out to the women in the jails. We are ready to do it. We just need the yes from one jail, and we're there.
Thank you. Next question is for Nana Asamoah. Nana Asamoah, you spoke about some of the challenges, and you included taboos. What are some of the taboos you've encountered, and what is your local community doing to combat those?
Yeah, I spoke about taboos, like when the women and the girls are in their menstruation, some of the places they are not allowed to go. A place like the religious centers, some people are in the same house, they are not entitled to enter the kitchen and even cook for themselves and all that. And whilst we are moving in, whilst enlightenment is encouraged now, we are moving there. We have to liberate ourselves from those taboos. Gradually, we are educating ourselves. I know that NGOs, the churches, and other societies are liberating. We are educating ourselves on that. So I feel that with time, we would come out of those taboos. With time, we will come out of those taboos, because education, the girl child education, a lot of entities talk about that, and we are getting to understand that it sets us back. It's something that will set us back. We will not move forward. So we are doing that. In my own capacity as a queen, a chief in my area, I also do that at every forum, every opportunity that I get. I talk about the girl child and liberation of those taboos. So I believe that with the sensitization and education, we will get out of it very soon. Um, I must say that just last week, 19th of this month, I gathered the school children, the girls, and I distributed their menstrual cups through Her Royal Highness Queen Aminata. I distributed 100 cups for the girls in my community. And this was a very good forum for me to talk about such things, the taboos and all that, those things that will prevent the girls from being free to use the proper menstrual material during menstruation. So I think we are moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question for Princess Lindiwe. Princess, you did a great job of speaking on the importance of global education and how you educated your daughter. Would you please kindly briefly touch on if you think it's important to also educate our boys and what that would do to society if the boys had a different view of menstruation?
Totally. So, as I kept mentioning, that we need to educate both men and women, both the boy child and the girl child, because menstruation is a normal part of life. Without that, without the woman going through their cycle, there isn't actually life. And when we educate our boys that menstruation it's the same as urinating, just that it's not every single day, but it's as normal as breathing, it's as normal as eating, then they start understanding that girls going through menstruation are not being icky. They're not being sissies, or they're not being weak, but they are just being normal human beings. When we educate our boy child about menstruation, both hygiene and everything else, including what women and females in general go through when they're on their cycles, then they start having more compassion towards women and towards girls when they're on their periods. Because when a girl is on her periods and she's feeling down, they're starting having more compassion as opposed to actually bullying her, as opposed to laughing at her. And when we educate the boy child from a young age, that means we are building up a society of men who will grow up loving women, who will grow up taking care of women, who will grow up nurturing women, who will grow up actually providing that secure environment and support that we as women require. It starts from the child. There's an African proverb that says "Ligoja lise manzi," which means when you have a twig, it's easier to bend a twig when it's at its freshest point, when it's still new. It's easier to bend a branch when it's still very new. So when we bend the kids when they are still new, they grow up to be great men. And we need great leadership. So what more beautiful way to ensure that we are feeding our future generation, which the children today are the ones who will be taking care of us tomorrow. Those are the people who will be our presidents in the future generation. So we want the next president or the next counselor or the next CEO of a company to actually grow up understanding the female cycle, because he will have female employees, he will have female people that he deals with regardless of his status. And he will be the kind of a man who is compassionate, who is empathetic, who is understanding. It starts at home, it starts young, it starts with the boy child and the girl child growing together, being educated together, having the same knowledge. Because when we only educate the girl child, it means we are leaving the boy child behind, and they will forever be playing catch up. When they forever play catch up, we then have a disintegrated society where there's a disconnect between the male and the female. That then makes the females have to work even harder to have the male catch up. It makes the men to work harder trying to catch up. That's frustrating. And we all know when there's frustration, sometimes there's violence. When there's frustration, sometimes there's laziness. When there's frustration, sometimes there's depression. So it has a lot of rippling effects. Thank you.
Thank you, Princess. So with that, I want to give out an all call. Along with Nana Asamoah, we have an ongoing campaign to raise funds to purchase menstrual cups. And then when we raise enough money, we go to different communities and we pass out those cups to girls who don't have access to supplies. The cups cost $10 and they last for 10 years. And you can learn all about that on my website if you visit queenaminata.com. Scroll down to where it says Menstrual Cup Campaign. You can learn all about what we're doing, see some pictures of different areas that we've already distributed cups to, and find out about what the cup does, what it's all about, what it looks like, how it works. And then you can also make your tax-deductible donation there for $10. You can change the life of a young person. So let's all come together, rally together, and let's save our girls. And on that note, I have one more thing to mention. Aido Network International, in conjunction with Diaspora African Kingdoms Alliance, is bringing African royals to the continent of the United States of America in August. We are very, very excited about that. It's called the Tears of Love Pilgrimage. We want everybody to be able to participate in that and come out and meet our royals for business, for Pan-African topics that will be discussed there. There's going to be a really fun cultural night where you get to come dressed in your cultural attire and meet and greet with some of the royals and just talk about community and learn from each other about what our similarities are. Even though we're separated by thousands of miles, we're still one people. We're still one people. We have the same root. And we want to come together and get to know one another and share our experiences and learn from one another. We want to do business with one another. So if you have a business that you want to spread onto the continent of Africa, you think you can improve conditions in Africa, or you have money you want to invest in Africa, this is the place to be. You can get your tickets at aidonetwork.org. Scroll down to the event and you can learn all about what we're going to be doing there. You can see some of the kings and queens that will be there, and you can purchase your ticket to be part of this history-making event. So with that, I want to give the last shout out to each one of the ladies. They can tell us where we can contact them should you have further questions and talk about their business. We'll start with you, Sheena.
All right. So I can be reached at amend, AMEND, for the number 4, UYOU at gmail.com. We do several things in our organization. We are a nonprofit organization here located in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We do things such as connecting the community in need to resources such as food, clothing, employment, housing, and very recently I added Christian mental health coaching onto that also. So we have a lot of different connections. If we don't have the answer to what you're seeking, we know a lot of people in the city and across the United States also that's willing to help you. If you are incarcerated and you're about to come home, or you have a family member that's incarcerated and about to come home, we want to have them set up with food, shelter, employment, all those fundamentals before they even get out so that they don't have to struggle. So reach out to us again, amend the number 4 you at gmail.com. I would love to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Engineer Teddy, where can the audience reach out to you if they have questions on human rights?
Oh, thank you so very much. Yeah, you can reach us on info@aidonetwork.org on our website, and you can always find all the information. We have networks around Africa. We have Ghana. We have South Africa, Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria, and many more countries. So we are reaching out locally. So if you go on our website, you will be able to find us if we are in your area, and you'll be able to find the contact details. But send us an email on info@aido.network.org.
Thank you.
idonetwork.org.
Thank you, Engineer
Info at
Teddy.
idonetwork.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nana Asamoah, where can they reach out to you if they want to learn more about what you're doing in your community to fight the taboos and things that you talked about?
Yeah. You can get me in Ghana. I'm a Ghanaian. I am Nana Asamoah Sakyi the first. That is my stool name because I'm a traditional ruler. I'm a chief, a woman in a man's seat. Yeah, and I work with Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority as the Learning and Development Manager. So officially at the workplace, I'm also known as Mrs. Florence Hagan at the workplace. I'm appealing to everybody, especially those in Ghana, because I can speak for my people in Ghana. Let's all embrace the use of menstrual cups so that we can um, benefit from it, so our people will not sort to other wrong menstrual materials. By doing so, we are also asking that we those who can afford would also help us get more cups so that we can spread around the country. We can spread and also give for free for our people who are less privileged to get those materials to use. So we all can stay healthy, especially our young women and school girls. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Princess Lindiwe, if they want to learn more about everything that you talked about and learn more about your coaching business, where can the audience reach you?
Thank you, my queen. So the audience can reach me at Lindiwe N. So that is LINDIWEN for Nelly at lindiwecoaching.com or www.lindiwecoaching.com. And I'm a self-discovery and development coach. And I'm also a neurolinguistics practitioner. And essentially, I work with helping people to find their purpose and to live in alignment with that purpose. I also coach and mentor teenagers because I believe that when we teach our teenagers, they are the seeds that will bear the fruit for our future. Those are our leaders. And I want to ensure that they don't have to do the healing that we are currently doing. I want to ensure that they have less inner child healing work to do as adults as what we are currently having to do right now. And I love working, especially with women, to find their purpose, to live in alignment with that purpose, to stop giving themselves up for free, to stop saying yes to everything, to stop compromising a lot, and to be able to understand themselves and to understand their intuition, because a lot of the times we are groomed so much by education, religion, society to quieten our intuition, and our intuition is our guiding star. It's our GPS. It's that thing that actually guides your life. So I help people to go back to source and to live in alignment with who they are from the origin. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to bring this exciting event to a close. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I'm going to ask that you share this out to your network so that we can spread the knowledge to as many people as possible and get the word out about the Menstrual Cup campaign and the Royal Pilgrimage to the Americas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone go
Bye.
out and be fantabulous. Smooches.